What is Smart Women Talk Radio? Find out next on Practical Law. Stay tuned. Welcome to Practical Law. I'm your host, divorce and family law attorney Henry Gornbein. I'm also pleased to say that Practical Law is now being co-sponsored by the Oakland County Bar Association. Today on Practical Law, I'm pleased to welcome as my guest Katana Abbott, who has really transformed the lives of many, many women. So we're going to hear her story without further ado. Katana, welcome to Practical Law.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here.
First of all, why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and your background?
Okay, well, today, you know my husband and me. You've met my husband.
Yes.
And you know that we have a wonderful life, and we're really, really happy. We're, great financially, but it hasn't always been that way. So I wanted to share this because it's the core of my work and why I do what I do. When I was 6 years old, my dad was in the service and he died accidentally and made me a orphan. And my mother was left with 3 children. So she wanted someone to take care of her, and so she did. She found someone from church and she got married, but he ended up being a monster. And so the next 9 years of our life were a lot of domestic violence and financial abuse. And when there's domestic violence, there normally is financial abuse too. And you would think that I would have learned, but I see this over and over, that we go back to the familiar. So by the time I was 19, my mother was homeless and she had breast cancer, and I married my own monster. So it was pretty devastating. And I think that created the foundation. That experience right there created the foundation for the work I'm doing today with women and money and helping them be happy in life. So I just want to share a quote with you, and it's by Anne Bancroft, and it goes something like, the things we overcome in life are what make us strong. And I really do believe that everything happens for a reason, and I don't regret anything that's happened, and I want listeners, because I know a lot of people have gone through difficult things in their life, find the gift in adversity, because there's always a gift.
It's the old saying, like, if you have lemons, learn how to make lemonade, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yeah.
Katana, you have a radio show on the internet called Smart Women Talk. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I started that in 2008. It's actually part of our nonprofit. And we interview people like yourself. You were on in February, if anyone wants to.
And I really enjoyed being on the show. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Well, we do a lot of book launches. And so we have a lot of authors and thought leaders and change agents who are on the show. And so it was your book launch, and Divorce Demystified, which is perfect for our audience. So
thank you.
Yeah, and we have we air on the Contact Talk Radio network, so it's not just like a blog talk radio. This is part of a network, and then we do live Tuesday mornings at 11, and then they put the shows on, they archive them on iTunes. And so I get these stats, and we find that we're getting about 20,000 new subscribers. I think it's every month now. And so we're over 600,000 subscribers at this point. So it's really exciting. And I love when someone contacts me. And like I had a woman contact me from Zambia. And I said, how did you find out about me? Smart Women Talk Radio.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a mission or a NPR, because it is part of the nonprofit, and it's actually funded through grants and sponsors.
Now, Katana, what is the focus of your career now? I mean, you've gone through many transformations, and where are you now?
Well, I do three things, and the only way I can do three different things is because I've surrounded myself with really smart people, teams, and a lot of systems. But I do the nonprofit, and currently I'm teaching a course at a local shelter, and it's an affluent area, but it's women who have gone through what I did. Domestic violence and financial abuse, and a lot of them had to just like escape with their children. So I'm teaching a local course. We have an online version that we're going to be making available to women around the world. So and the radio show. So that's one section. The Smart Women Companies. The second thing is this Midlife Millionaires. It's a Midlife Millionaire Institute, and I do that again with a partner. And she's from Ohio, and because of the internet, we're able to work virtually together. Our assistant is in Oregon, and so we have this virtual team. And with that program, we're working primarily with women in midlife, helping them really get clear on who they are, what they want to do in life. And we do have a man now that's joined us. And it's this whole concept of doing what you want in midlife to make a difference and generate income to supplement pension, Social Security, and savings. And the third part, I do financial planning with a financial planning firm in Auburn Hills. So that's where we do asset management and that.
How do you find enough hours in the day to do all of this?
Well, the thing I've learned is, and I knew this from a very young age, is that it doesn't matter if you're an attorney, a CPA, in corporate, you need to find out what your path to wealth is. And I've always been a front stage person. And so if we look at an orchestra, for example, we were kind of talking about this earlier. You've got the conductor and the orchestra, those are front stage. And then you've got all the people backstage and the people selling tickets and putting on the show. That's how you do it, is you find out what are your strengths and what do you like doing. And it really takes both, and one's not better than the other. So I know that what I need to be doing is front stage, and that means being out doing things like this, connecting with people, seeing the big picture, and then I surround myself with people who do all the details. So it's like being the conductor in something. And when you learn how to do this, everything seems to flow. Some people, like our virtual assistant, she's on the other end, and she works for a bunch of people like me, making us look brilliant and seamless, see?
It takes a team.
It does, it really does.
Katana, what is the #1 issue facing women today?
We did a survey right after the market crash in 2009. And then we redid the exact same survey in 2014 to compare. And it actually went up a little bit higher, but first of all, the question was, what's the single biggest challenge holding you back from living your perfect life? And the #1 issue was money. About 32, 34%. This followed by don't know where to start, which is clarity, right? So they want help with money, but they don't know where to start. And there was a couple of reports that came out to support this idea that 50% of the women who have an investment account with a firm, 50% have not spoken to anyone, have not met with any kind of advisor. They have an account, and Fidelity just said that women feel that it's not. What was it exactly? Fidelity study said that they don't feel comfortable talking about money, like it's inappropriate. So these conversations about money with women are really important, and that's a perfect. So I create places in Midlife Millionaires and also in Smart Women's Empowerment for women to come together and talk about these issues. So can I just give you an example of what we just talked about, the money? I'm working at a shelter that's in an affluent area again. So I went around the room asking these women what their biggest challenge was, and with every one of them, they say as soon as they get money, they get rid of it. They give it away, they spend it, they don't save it. And when I ask them why, it's because money relates to pain for them. So we have to have these conversations because you know what that means. That goes back to experiences they've had. And now that they're safe, those beliefs may no longer, well, they are no longer true because they are safe.
But they've got to unlearn those
Yes.
beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
How did you become comfortable with money as a certified financial planner?
Okay, so, and I can talk about this later if you want, but we all have these money personalities. There's 5 of them. And I've always been comfortable with money. So even as a child, so you know, I told you my mother didn't protect me.
Right.
But there's always the good with the bad. And my mother actually took me out and had me collecting holiday dollars for the poor when I was just very young. Hazel Park, Ferndale, these poor areas. I would come home with over $100 back in the 70s.
So you're very good at collecting money.
So that's helped me now with fundraising. So I raise money for nonprofits, for grants. I also was very entrepreneurial, going out and helping people. So I've always been very comfortable with money. But my money personality is a recognition personality, which is that entrepreneurial, big ideas, you know, I can do anything type of personality. And so that's what I discovered about myself at a very young age. Even when I was first a financial planner at 29, I knew I couldn't do the detail work. So you just saw me cross out, you know, I just made
right.
I was never, my staff would never allow me to touch the paperwork. They put sticky notes for me, right? But I mentioned I can bring in great big checks for the firm. So everyone has to understand their strengths and their weaknesses. So did I mention I call it the front stage, backstage? And I understood that at a very young age. And when I got into financial planning, I actually had an assistant who I trained. I helped him get his master's degree, and I trained him to be my partner. And he actually took care of all the details, running the plans, making sure everything happened. And so at one point, I was able to transition the practice, and he was able to buy it from me. And this is the funny thing. Had we not partnered, it wasn't 1 + 1 = 2, because we ended up managing over $100 million. And had we not partnered like we did, I would have ended up probably making 6 figures. You see, I can even talk about money and not feel weird. But, but probably making 6 figures, but very miserable. And it would have been very difficult. And this is the funny part. He would have had all this potential and no clients but maybe his mom, because that's not what he does. And John, please forgive me if you ever see this.
Well, you're the team. I mean, you're the person who brings in the business. He's the person who manages the money.
But some people won't give up that control. They want to do it all. You know that.
I see that every day.
Yeah.
I mean, in my divorce practice, control is a major issue with a lot of people. And my attitude and what I believe that I've learned over the years is the more controlling someone is, the more insecure she is. What about your nonprofit? Tell our viewers a little bit about that, Katana.
Well, I'd like to share what happened and why I started it, because I had a great career going at Ameriprise. Back then it was American Express Financial Advisors. And Sandy Mall, who's an elder law attorney, invited me to come and speak and do Smart Women Finish Rich for the Federal Reserve's Money Smart Week. So I got there, and there was 178 women at the Farmington Hills Library. And I realized when we started this that it was the unbanked. And I thought, how am I going to reach these ladies? So what do you think I did? I told my story that I told you at the beginning of the show. And of course it resonated with them.
Well, everyone has a story. And it's like, once you're letting your guard down, people are going to be more responsive to what you have to say.
Well, after I told my story, and I was so embarrassed because I had never shared this with anyone. I was embarrassed of it. So the first thing is you have to get honest. At least I felt that was a turning point for me. So I told the ladies, I said, now, if I can do this, because they knew I was successful now, I said, then you can do this. And today I'm going to show you how, so let's get started.
Well, tell us about, it's what, Midlife Millionaires.
Yes.
And tell us how that works and what it is.
Okay, the Midlife Millionaires was a concept I had after retiring, because when I started financial planning in 1987, you know what it was, very simple situation. We talked about the 3-legged stool, Social Security, pension, and savings, and if any of those was weak, your retirement plan was weak. Well, what happened, and you know, their house was paid off, they had pensions. I mean, it was pretty simple. People were going to retire to a life of leisure, usually 62 or 65. Well, after I retired from my first business, I got out there and the 2008 market crash happened. So now what happens is you have 78 million baby boomers who are nearing retirement.
With nothing.
With, yes, real estate, pensions, stock market, everything has changed. So there was an Associated Press survey that says 80% plan to work for pay at something. So what Midlife Millionaires is about is teaching you how to take your unique abilities, talents, and passions and create income, hopefully passive, but it doesn't always have to be passive, doing something you love and making a difference. So the secret why did I talk about $800?
No.
Oh, the reason, so I use this term of when you can generate $800 a month, $800 a week, doing something you love that is effortless, it's equivalent to having $1 million in the bank, and that's where the Midlife Millionaire came from. So because if you had $1 million and you were 65 and you wanted it to last for 30 years, the most you could pull out is 4%. 4% is $40,000 a year, $3,500 a month, $800 a week. So when I share this with people, and we have people in our group who are going to start, you know, multi-million-dollar. I have a woman who, you know, she's starting something that could be a multi-million-dollar business. It's not like we're teaching people how to make $800 a week, but it's the concept for people that have been hopeless, going, you know, I don't have enough money, and I'm 50. How am I going to ever have enough? It's really been just life-changing and transformational for these people in this group to get clear on what they're capable of doing.
So it's really a lot of it is attitude, and I know you are also a coach. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your coaching career as well?
Okay. So that's what I ended up doing. I retired from something to something, which I love that phrase, and from the financial planning to the coaching, and I'm now a life and legacy wealth coach. And so I do the private wealth coaching, these group intensives, which I love, like even working with the women at the shelter, that's a group intensive, and there's so much energy there and transformation. And I also, once a year, right now is what we're doing, take women to Costa Rica, where I have a 6-step process that I use, and it's very similar to the financial planning process we use at the planning firm as well. But it's called the 6 Pillars of Awakened Prosperity. And prosperity is not just about money. So what we teach is you really need to have happiness, health, and wealth. And so in this 6-step process, which I use for everything we do, there's the dream, where you get your vision, the discovery, which is, you know, mission, vision, values, and goals, and all this stuff, going very deep with unique abilities and skills and challenges. And then we do the leap, which is pillar number 3. And that's when you just make a decision. And that's when all the fear comes up. And by the way, we're in a 12-week course. We're in week 8. We're still in discovery. So discovery, you go deep. But then there's the leap, and then you make the decision, and you need support. Pillar 4 is the plan. And you know, as an attorney and doing the work you do, that you need help. There's a lot involved there. But once you get the plan in place, pillar number 5 is the dance. And the dance is where, just like dancing, you are testing, retesting, implementing, and sometimes you fall flat on your face, and that's where you learn. But ultimately, you end up where it's effortless. And it's like dancing with the stars when they finally get it right, and you reach mastery. So pillar number 6 is mastery. And what we find is when you get to mastery, like I did with the financial planning, you have a new dream and you go through it again. So see, I get goosebumps. I love this.
Katana, how do you get people to, it's like in our society, and you've got to realize, because I'm a divorce attorney, I hear about all the taboos. And one of the biggest taboos is money. People will talk about almost anything, but they don't talk about money. So how do you get them to start talking about money?
Well, I guess because for me, it's so easy to talk about. When I first started in financial planning, I had my mentor, Carol Bloom. And I don't know if you ever heard Carol and Michael Bloom. And so I remember her saying as a joke that today I'm going to ask you the 3 questions my mother said never to ask anyone. How old you are, how much money you make, and how much you weigh, and then she would laugh. But I've never been afraid to talk about money with people. I found a way to approach it, though, that is very easy. And it's talking about these money personalities, because people seem to be interested in that. And so the very first thing I do with people, I have a complimentary consultation, but I invite them to find out what their money personality is. And there's 5. So there is love, security, value, status, and recognition. So just by saying those, you probably had an image of what those
Sure.
are. And each of them has their own self-limiting belief. So with the love, they are trying to fill a hole in their heart, and they see money as play money. And so a lot of times they end up bankrupt. A friend of mine was a love personality. She inherited $1 million, went through it in 4 years, and you could not stop her. And her brother got the same amount, and he has it, and he begged her. He's a financial planner. He begged her to talk, but she thought, she could have a millionaire lifestyle on that. The security is they also have a scarcity mentality because they hoard money. And my husband, but he's getting better at this. But their fears are going to lose it, no matter how much they have. And then the value personality, that person, they are there. They give to the point of resentment. So their challenge is boundaries. And this, as you can see, these are all overgiving or under earning, let's say. These status personality also overgives because they're the first to pick up the check. They buy everything for people. Their challenge is balance. And then there's a recognition personality, and their challenge is realism. And they get these pie-in-the-sky ideas, they go for them, and they never give up because they have to prove they're right. And that's, I confess to that. I'm recovering.
So
but a lot of
Katana,
entrepreneurs are like that, as you know.
So how do you get the balance? Or I guess you talk to people, you learn where their proclivities are, their weaknesses are, and I guess then you work around those or try and work with them to get to the right balance, I guess?
Well, the secret to that is, we apply spiritual, practical, and tactical. So when I say spiritual, it's really looking at where those beliefs came from, because they're normally not true anymore. So we help them identify where those beliefs came from. Like, no matter what I have, I may lose it, or I have to prove I'm right. Okay, those kind of concepts. Once they realize that, oh, that came from when I was a child. I'm not a psychologist, but it all boils down to experiences they had. Once they get it and they release that, then they're able to actually move forward at that point. So there's a little work around that, which we don't have time to talk about, but there's a realization and then there's a transformation. And I've done hundreds of these, and it's just amazing to see what happens afterwards.
What do you find most rewarding about what you do?
Just what I said, seeing people, whether it's, I'm working with a gal right now, helping her with another person again to write her book, or whether it's working at the shelter and seeing these women transform their lives. It's helping people find happiness and also become healthy. That's another part, is in midlife. You have to take care of your health before you're 70, because my trainer tells me this, that up until 70 you can increase your health. After 70 you can only maintain. So this whole idea of helping people transform and find happiness and health, and to look at their wealth in a way that they're happy, is what it's all about for me.
Katana, what is the biggest myth that you have found about money?
Okay. Boy. I would say that regardless, money has nothing to do with earning it, keeping it, or losing it, okay? Because money's neutral. Remember the story about the gal who got the $1 million? So what's important about money is your mindset and how you handle it, if that makes sense. So the most important thing is understanding your relationship with money and developing a healthy relationship with it, and learning how to manage it. So you can be a good steward and create a wonderful legacy for your family.
These are all important words of wisdom. What are some of the, tell us about some of your success stories over the years, especially with regard to helping women either reinvent their lives or to become more secure, for lack of a better word.
Okay, I just found out about one. I'm working again with the women in transitional housing. And so a year and a half ago, there was one gal, she didn't have a job, low self-esteem, you know, and I only did a 5-week course and then came back a couple months later, but they just did a big fundraiser. And she not only changed her mindset by taking this course, they love having me teach it because of my background, but she not only changed her mindset, she got a job, she saved up enough, and Henry, she bought a house. And now she's out of this transitional housing, she owns her own house, and she's a spokesperson for the organization. So that was where I didn't do financial planning. I didn't even do coaching. I just facilitated a course in this case. So I know there's things happening with people at all different levels, even from listening to you on the radio show, for example, and picking up your book. But I've had some remarkable things happen with people that I coach. I mean, I've got a doctor right now who is at almost 70, 68. She's actually, writing her book, and she's, turned her practice into an anti-aging practice, and she has turned her whole practice around. She's traveling, and she is living the life of her dreams. And before we started working, she wasn't sure she was going to keep it going. So I don't do this for people. I help them find it in themselves, because she had the solutions. I honestly didn't have the solutions.
Well, you help people reinvent themselves, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
What is your advice to inspire women in midlife to achieve?
Oh, I have 3 beautiful tips that I absolutely love. And
we're down to 1 minute.
And it's important because at midlife, you don't have time to have mistakes. So number 1 is you want to find a mentor. Find someone who's gone where you want to go and follow them, because it takes 10 years or 10,000 hours to become an expert in your field. So find that person and follow them. It could even be a course. The second thing is to surround yourself with very supportive, caring people who believe in you, because you don't want to do this alone. And number 3 is to never, ever give up, because so many people give up just before they reach success because they don't realize it's just around the corner.
Katana, we're out of time. You've really given us some words of wisdom. I want to thank you for being my guest on Practical Law. I want to thank you for watching Practical Law.